wanted to do biology, and then we discussed it, and I said, well, if you want to do biology, maybe do something interesting with it. So let's see what is there on offer. And we thought that genetics and genomics was kind of a very hot sound, very cool as well.
Yes, yes.
For me, ever pushing mommy, so always pushing up, so somewhere. And of course, when we chose the program, it was his first choice. We didn't, especially me, at the back of my mind, just thinking, we're sitting here and now choosing university programs, and it was on its own a dream came true.
Yes.
So thinking that we would be deciding on university programs,
I know,
was amazing. And I just told him, just do your living cert exams, just do your best. You're already doing beyond what I hoped and dreamt. So and it was a plan A, and then we had a plan B and C and D.
I know.
For everything, just to slowly.
Just to be sure.
We have to go slowly.
Yes.
Wow. So he's doing.
I know he's doing great and he's amazing. And tell us, for parents who are wondering, when did you come to me originally? What age was it when you came to me?
Oh, it was an amazing meeting that, remember, it was kind
That's
of
right.
Almost like a meet cute.
Yes.
We just moved to Galway from Limerick. It was 2003. So Vlad just turned 3.
Okay.
And we already knew his speech was not, an interaction was not developing. So it was already flagged to me by his crash, which was very good. The owner of the crash, she was a qualified specialist, so she flagged it with me. So, and then we moved, and there was a tiny little ad in Galway Advertiser. I remember in one of the hotels you held a free entry evening.
That's
right. So this
That's
is
right.
how,
The Menlo
and I just
Hotel.
went.
Yes.
So the first newspaper, we just literally today moved in. The newspaper was kind of pushed into the mailbox, just looked at it, and here it is. It was like, stars just aligned. And then if you remember that you had other plans at the time, so you recommended someone else, and then so we originally had a different speech language therapist and occupational therapist. So the regular, and which was very great. I learned a lot, but then an email came from you to say that your plans have changed again and you were taking more kids, and that's it. So, and I think over time we kind of not gave up and decided that other therapists did not bring as much improvement as this one. So I'm a data analyst by trade myself, and an economist. So it was a cost benefit as well for me. Because over time, Vlad is 21 now, so any parent knows that it's just.
I know. You're looking for something that's going to give that long-term change, isn't that it? And that's
long term, it was also value for money. I know that a lot of people don't like to talk, but I'm an economist and I'm comfortable discussing. So this was us, and Vlad just again done another lift during the summer. So we are still at it, because I think the neuroplasticity is something that cannot be taken lightly.
And it's interesting, yeah, that you say about the neuroplasticity, because that's what I wanted to talk a little bit about tonight as well. I think that's one of the key things with the sound therapy. It's one of the main techniques that I suppose it's completely non-invasive and it's so easy for the kids and young adults to do, but it really impacts on the person's neurology and it really fine-tunes everything so that the child or the young adult or adult is doing much better in so many areas. And I think that's the beauty of it. As a speech therapist, it's funny, because obviously you're working on the speech and language end, but I see all the other pieces coming together as well, like the gross motor skills, the fine motor skills, the interaction, the engagement, obviously the language, the speech, the comprehension, the academics, etc. So you've done a number, I know obviously you came to me when he was 3, you've done a number of lift programs over the years and therapeutic listening as well. And if you were to say, Oksana, the 3 or 4 top, changes that you've seen, what would you say? What are the biggest things that you've seen?
Oh, we've seen so many changes. It's just you can't just narrow it down because the programs. So we were talking every time where we would like to see improvements. So obviously, originally, I just wanted Vlad to look me in the eye.
Yes,
so this engagement piece and maybe to be more calm in his body, to be more regulated. So I think that was the first piece of the puzzle. And then, of course, I wanted him to start making, conversations, at least a few words. And then and then we moved beyond that and wanted him to be because academically he started to focus more, preparing for so this is focus, and again went back to the regulation and to be able to focus for longer hours. And then me now wanting him to have a girlfriend and the social life. So we are back again for social piece. So, and obviously I'm not an expert despite my attempts, but I know that the programs vary and they vary every time, and they brought improvements every time. And yes, we have achieved, as I said, first it was regulation, and then huge improvements in speech. Vlad had problems in expressive and receptive language. So he neither understood very well. So he wasn't able to process long sentences fast enough, nor was he able to express himself. Even a few words in the beginning were not there. So those two, it was a serious
I know it was and it was really right across the board. And I remember I was surprised at this. I remember you told me a number of years ago that you had been told that Vlad may never speak.
Yes, when he was 5, because in parallel to all of that, of course, when when problems were flagged with us, I put him on each and every waiting list for the public services. So finally, at the age of 5, so 2 years, HSC speech and language therapist came to assess him. And then she said he'll never talk, and it was better for me to start teaching him to communicate with PACS, which is a picture cards.
Yes, a visual system.
She showed me the system, which was again expensive, and I thought it was a lot of different things. And at that point, because we were already seeing improvements, I did not think that we were yet to go down that road. Just to keep in mind that it was around maybe a year after we met the first time. And Vlad was still non-verbal. So, and he started talking around the age of 6.
Okay.
And I remember at his 5th birthday, I was crying my eyes out, watching other kids running around and interacting, and him just sitting there.
I know.
A little bit tired because of sensory overload, a little bit not being able to join in into the fun. But yeah, there was at that point, I thought, that was probably one of the hardest at the age of 5. Remember his birthday. So this is where we came from. Now, of course, it's so funny and sounds very dramatic. But at the time,
but it's so lovely, I think, for other parents as well to hear your experience, Oksana, because you're here now and Vlad is 21. He's in 3rd year in university. He's doing really well. Yes, we want to fine tune that social even more, but he is lovely and sociable and engaging, and he's funny and interesting, and he's amazing, and he's doing so well.
And he's very chatty. And sometimes I tell him, "Oh, I'm sorry, I just can't listen to that anymore." And he says, "Mom, you wanted me to talk so much. Why do you want me to be quiet at night?"
I know.
And it's a real thing when I tell him, "Oh, please." I'm focusing on something else, and he's telling me about this and that.
Yes.
So I tell him, you have to find friends, more friends. You need to talk to.
I know.
Obviously,
and that isn't always easy.
No, but we have. I think it's because we have a great relationship with him. Just a friend, very, very friendly. So and he finds almost it's almost like a downside, because he almost feels that he doesn't need that much. So in family, we are all kind of.
I know. You're like friends as well as family, which is beautiful and amazing. And that brings me to another point, and maybe if we can bring Morana in here a little bit as well. So Morana, just to let everybody know who hasn't maybe met you before, Morana is or has worked at the Listening Centre in Toronto, where they created the lift, and you were there for over 30 years, Morana, as a listening consultant. So we liaise all the time in relation to the LIFT program, specifically for children and young adults that we work with. And you've met Oksana before, you've Vlad. What's your you've done a lot of work with families over the years, our families and so many other families internationally. I know it's a very broad question, but what do you feel the lift gives? What do you see? And I know it gets into so many areas, and I think that can be confusing for people sometimes. They think, how can it get into all of that? But when it's working on the neuroplasticity,
I was taking little notes as Oksana was talking too, because I think that looking at a kind of a long-term impact of the lift gives us a different perspective as well. And, one of the things that I jotted down was the building blocks, really understanding where we're starting from and where that's going to take us. A lot of the work that I've done with parents in my consultations with parents was around what is the next step? What do we need to see first in order to be able to build on that foundation, right? So when the child comes to us and they're 3 years old, we're working off of a different framework, right? We have to build the house from the foundation. I think that LIFT gives a good foundation across the board. Whether there's a motor component to it, whether there is a social emotional. My background is psychology, so I'm always looking at that aspect, which I think the LIFT addresses very, very nicely. So when we're looking at children, when we meet them later on, that integration of language into the social piece is very important. When we work with the microphone, it's not just building on the language comprehension and the words there. We're really building on that meaning and the exchange that happens. So how does the language work interactively? And it builds the confidence in the child. So when you open the microphone and they hear their own voice, and they know what they sound like to the other people. It's like it gives them both sides of it gives them a perspective.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
On the outside. So, and that starts from a little 3-year-old that just playing with their own voice. They're very much in their own little egocentric place, right? To an older child who's now playing with that voice as to how they project to another person, what they're getting back, and how they're received as well. So there are many lovely developmental components that are incorporated in that program. It sounds a little bit miraculous, but in a way it is. I would say developmentally it really does does revisit all the building blocks that are necessary for the child to advance according to their, you know, their ability, where they're at when we first meet them. And the goals change as we go along. Sana was talking a little bit about what we were working on early on and how these goals changed, and now they're looking at maybe different things, right? So the tool is the same, but we can incorporate certain aspects in the program that will build on those goals even down the road. So it is a long-term, there's a long-term possibility.
Yes.
That just changes a little bit. I think that the lift gives each child what they need.
Yes, absolutely.
If that makes sense, right?
And it's funny, you know, you say that, you know, Morana, about, you know, getting into so many different areas. When I heard about sound therapy initially, and, you know, it can impact on the neuroplasticity of the brain, and then, you know, trained in therapeutic listening, and went down to do the lift, which is much more comprehensive, and we get even much greater results. I thought, is this actually possible? That, you know, you can get into that in a 30-day program of 2 hours per day, you can start to really significantly change a child's gross motor skills, significantly change their listening, their comprehension, their expressive language. I mean, I've seen children's scores change by years in the space of 30 days in terms of language comprehension and even expression, but even more comprehension. And to get into that interaction and engagement piece, and we'll talk maybe a bit more about that with Katie in terms of using mother's voice and all of that. I mean, as a speech and language therapist who had worked for years before incorporating sound therapy, I thought this couldn't be possible. But actually it is. And we're not saying that it, you know, it's about helping the child achieve their own potential, whatever their potential is. It's not about going beyond that potential, but it's about really, truly. And that was something I probably struggled with, maybe with more classical speech and language therapy techniques. I just found, okay, they really brought the child so far, but bringing in the naturalness, that fluency, that engagement, that lovely, I mean, something that other therapists have said to me and parents is that it's the naturalness of the engagement, the naturalness of the listening, the comprehension, the, you know.
And see, as a therapist, you're always working a little bit on the outside, right? You're taught to do the modeling. And I think what the lift does, it gives the child from the inside a little bit of a framework to rely on, right? And to build from. That self-awareness, the communication, the desire to communicate, but also to feel successful, right? When that hook, it's working. I'm getting the feedback, and I'm reinforced by that feedback, right?
And I don't need someone else to give me more feedback. I can do it myself. So that in itself, the independence that comes with that is truly amazing.
If I can say something about the neuroplasticity you were mentioning, Karen, we have to remember, I mean, the traditional view of neuroplasticity was, you know, the earlier the better, right? When the child is small, when we're sort of building up the foundation, that's when we stimulate and we get the most from stimulation. That's true. At the same time, when the research in neuroplasticity developed around, you know, people that had acquired brain injury, let's say, right? Or some kind of setback where they had to rebuild their skills. And then over time, we learned that these skills can be rebuilt and the brain can rewire to fill in those blocks too. So I think that when we're talking about the lift and sound stimulation training, we're really tapping into this, you know, we can enter the stage later on and still have good success. Different kind of success, absolutely. But we can rebuild the skills from not just from the beginning, but also where it's interrupted in a way, right? When the development is interrupted.
And, no, and I think that's such an important point for parents, because I think there's a lot of pressure on parents that if they don't achieve results in the first 5 or 7 years, then that's it. And many parents have said that to me, that that's what they've been told or, made to believe. And what I've seen is actually very different. I've had lots of children, yes, come to me at 3, but equally have had lots come to me at 8, 9, 10. And make a very significant change in terms of reaching their potential. That I know we'd never have achieved with traditional techniques such as speech, more traditional speech and language therapy. So that's why I continue to do the sound therapy and love using the sound therapy, and maybe particularly the lift, but also the therapeutic listening, because you're, as you say, Morana, you're getting in a way that you just can't get in otherwise.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking about Norman Doidge there, because I know Norman Doidge, and this will be of interest to a lot of parents, has written a lot about neuroplasticity, and he's very much specialist in that field. And he has written about the lift and sound therapy in general, but maybe more specifically the lift. Is that his book, The Brain's Way of Healing? That's the one that he's written? Yeah, because I know he has quite a number of them. Yeah, The Brain's Way of Healing. So that may be of interest.
The second book talks about the lift,
Yeah. So, and this whole idea, of being able to access the neurology and help to fine-tune it at any stage, because I know you can use the lift with adults as well. Now, we've very much specialised with children and maybe young adults. But nice to see that it can be used right across the board. Yeah.
Another thing that occurred to me, if I can just briefly, when Oksana was talking about, is that you were saying, we're as a family, we're so tight knit, that he, in a way, he doesn't feel like he needs to branch out. I see that at any stage. I think I would encourage the parents to not to be discouraged if the child is getting more secure in their communication with the family. That's such an important building block. It's so important for the child that's their first contact with communication in general, and they're getting the loving, supportive feedback. It's easier with the family first. So we have to really highlight that moment when the child is opening up in the family with the family members, because it is the first step.
Yes.
It's going to lead towards better communication with others as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, that's fantastic. Is there anything else you're thinking, Oksana? Anything that you're thinking as we're talking, or, your experience over the years?
Yes, because I wanted to mention that at some point, I don't remember what year into this we were in, but you offered for me to try lift for 30 days, like a full program.
That's right.
And I remember Vlad was doing it, and I was bringing him in clinic at that time. And I was also putting my own, and you asked me, remember, what were my goals? And I was doing my PhD at the time. So I said focused, I was a bit dysregulated myself, probably all the stress. Constant stress at the time between Vlad's activities,
to balance everything,
of course.
And trying to work and all the stuff. Anyhow, so I did notice, and I remember between trying sometimes being so almost tired, not able to focus. I had to reread the same paragraph 2 or 3 times just to be able to understand. And then I could feel it myself, that all of a sudden reading comprehension, and that was my goal. I remember this is what I said. I said I find it very difficult, and I had to read so much all the time. Obviously, it was my bread and butter and everything at the time. So it was. I thought. I did not expect anything. I thought I was perfect already, but there is a neuroplasticity, and that's probably the reason why, despite the achievement, all the gains that we had, and Vlad's achievement, I every year contact you and just say, listen, do you think you could talk to Vlad, and you see maybe we can bring him a little bit further in terms of communication, and we are, I think, almost there practically. But it's just keeps on gift that keeps on giving.
Yes, yes, yes. No, no, no. It's so true. And I had forgotten that you did at that time. And, quite a number of years ago, we used to do adult lift programs. And many people who came on the programs would have been people who wanted to maybe go into a higher position at work, or were returning to work after having had a baby, or, just felt that they wanted to get that focus back and all of that. And they were very successful. It's just that we didn't really have the time, and we wanted to specialize then with children, or children that we had worked with yeah. So, no, that is amazing, Oksana. Thank you so much. Yeah.
And maybe last kind of,
yeah.
Just to say that never give up, it just was my thing through the years. And I felt some days, that it was too hard, but never did I want to give up. And I think people ask me, what is the difference between, for example, Vlad and other kids that we started with, we just never gave up, and consistently. And I see it almost like planting seeds. And just watering them until that. This is how I saw and I always say to all the parents, not even with special needs, I said, all the seeds that you plant, if you keep on looking after those seeds, at some point I said, I promise you will see the results of that. So some kids need a little bit more, and I have more than one child here, but as I said, it's different for everyone. Thank you.
I know. And you've been amazing, and it hasn't been easy, but as you say, when you think of that, you were originally told when he was 5 that, he would never speak. And now here he is. I mean, there's absolutely no issue with him chatting, talking, engaging, interacting, and he's in university, he's in 3rd year in university. I mean, that's, it's phenomenal.
He wouldn't cope in mainstream school, obviously, all of those things that I think many parents hear, and it was very hard, and it was very hard just not to accept that. Even some friends of the family also said, why do you do this to yourself and to your child? But our decision was, we will not give up until we feel that we tried everything. And I don't think we have tried everything yet. So we are still trying.
I know. Oh no, and he's doing so well. No, thank you. Thank you, Oksana, and thank you for sharing your experience. I think it's fantastic for parents to hear other parents. That's really, at the end of the day, I think Morana, yourself and myself can say different things, but I think to hear another parent share their experience, there's really nothing like it. So
nothing like it.
Thank you, Oksana. Now,
thank you, Karen and Morana.
Thank you, Oksana.
I'm telling you that I'm going to take a little bit more of the time and just use this opportunity because I haven't seen Morana in a while, and just to say thank you, because it's been a life changer.
You're very welcome. It's our privilege to be on the other end and see your son and other kids doing so well.
Absolutely. And to be using techniques where you can really make a difference. I mean, it's so satisfying, So thank you, Oksana, and thank you to Vlad as well. He's truly amazing. Now, I'm thinking we should probably, because I'm always just aware of time and we go over every single time. So I'd love to bring in Katie now as well. Katie, are you still there?
I'm here, yeah.
Great. Okay. So now we're going to the other end, when I say the other end of the scale in terms of age-wise. Okay. So Lucy is 4. She's just started school. So what age just remind me, what age was Lucy when you brought her to ourselves, or when you came to us?
I've lost it.
You still there? Yeah, I think you're back again.
Sorry, Karen, I lost you there for a second.
I think you just froze.
Sorry,
no problem. You just froze a little bit there. Yeah. So I was just saying, what I think you came to us. What age was Lucy when you came to us originally, Katie?
Lucy was 2. It was November 2022, so she was 2 years and 5 months when we started. And now we started with therapeutic listening.
Yes.
Obviously first.
Yeah.
But she was very much so what I kind of call in the thick of it when we started. We had not long got a diagnosis of autism, global developmental delay, and obviously she has significant sensory needs as well. So we were very much so in despair, I suppose, is the only way to describe it. Like Oksana said, in terms of public services, they were absolutely, and still are, because we're now, I suppose, 2 years into our journey, but we still haven't got any of those, I suppose, support systems publicly at all, like a lot of parents. So I was thrilled to come across something that I suppose gave hope in terms of what we could do. And got in contact with yourself, and we went from there. But I suppose when we started, just to give people a little bit of background, Lucy was completely nonverbal. She had no communication. Her sensory needs were quite high. Her sleep was outrageously bad. And she, I suppose, developmentally, we could describe her, I'd say, as a 6-month-old baby at that time, and she was 2 years and 5 months. So, definitely 2 years behind, if not even a little more in some aspect. So, we started with the therapeutic listening. I know a lot of parents are probably concerned or worried in terms of the headphones. That was one of my major concerns when we started as well. But we started very basic in terms of, I think I had them on her for 30 seconds the first day. And then we built it up. And I think over, the first 3 days, it was 5 minutes. And then it was 6 minutes. And I used to put her in her high chair at the time and distract her with food or a book or something to just get her into the routine of doing it. And now she'll happily wear the headphones for an hour at a time. And it just, I suppose that you're so worried at the start, but it does come along. And I know with Lucy anyway, she really responds to music, so she actually really enjoys that hour of listening. But we were lucky enough that we started seeing results instantly, literally instantly, like from day one, I suppose, or week one, should I say. Like, we were seeing things that we had never seen before. Like, she was clapping her hands. She was I have things written down here, like she was clapping her hands. Her babble started to all of a sudden just increase. She was engaging more. And then one of the big things that we noticed with the therapeutic listening was she had a lot of trouble in terms of her feeding. She never knew when was too much in her mouth. She'd always put a lot in, and she wasn't able to feed herself or bite things properly or anything like that. And that almost definitely in the first therapeutic listening program, that started to improve and improve greatly, which is something I don't think I thought I was going to get from it. That makes sense. I thought it was all kind of centered around speech and communication, and but all of a sudden all these other things were coming into play as well, which was huge. And then we did 3 rounds of therapeutic listening first. So I think there were 8-week blocks, and then we took, I think it was something like a 4-week break, and then did another 8-week block. Because she was still very young. And then we started in November 2022 with therapeutic listening, and in May 2023, so November to May, we had our first words. Brilliant. So she, and like, hilarious as it sounds, it wasn't mommy, it wasn't daddy, it was she was singing along to a song, the head, shoulders, knees and toes, and she said knees and toes, and it just came out like all of a sudden, just knees and toes, it was so funny. And I still believe, even when you see her now, when she says new words, she has it, kind of like it's all inside. It's waiting to come out.
It's hard to get it out.
Yes, it's very evident with her, I suppose. And then we started the lift program. We did our first lift in August 2023, just over a year ago. And that, like, I kind of wrote down 2 words from both Morana and Oksana, miraculous and life-changing. And I mean, that's all I could describe it as. We cannot believe the change that we've seen, and she's still making, like, we haven't done a lift since but May, just gone. Or in fact, she hasn't done any listening since May, just with the summer and different bits and school. But we're still seeing changes. Do you know, and it's phenomenal. Like, she's starting to do her 2 and 3 words together, and you know, the regulation, the difference in the regulation is huge. The eye contact, the affection, like everything, even being happy with other people, kind of strangers that you know, like, even a testament, I suppose, to it was she started school in September. And for any child, that's a huge change. Never mind our children, who her understanding is only at a stage where it's starting to come now. It's not like you can explain it to her before it happens. You know, we do luxury, but she started in a new school with new teachers, with new SNAs. She started on a new bus route with a new bus driver and a new escort. She also at the same time started with a new childminder. So all of that change, and she quite literally took it all in her stride. There was no such thing. We haven't, tip wood, because, you know, I shouldn't talk too soon.
I know.
We haven't had a day where there's been a huge meltdown or she couldn't cope with it. And it's I truly believe it's all down to the work we've put in from the lift and the therapeutic listening programs. She's just able to cope so much better with kind of anything that's thrown at her. And, like, look, she's still 4, don't get me wrong. There's days where things will go wrong or whatever.
Yeah, of course.
But it has been, you know, huge. And I obviously the language and the speech, that's huge. But it's not just that. Do you know what I mean? It's everything else that has brought her on to this level. It's just been phenomenal. And we can't, like, we can't actually quite believe it, you know, that kind of way. And that's such a lovely stage at the minute, even, where we're thoroughly enjoying, you know, seeing her look at us and understand what we're saying now, you know. Or you tell her something and she understands it. Like, you say to her now, we're going to school, and she'll automatically say car, you know.
She's making connections.
Like, I made the mistake of telling her the other night before she went to sleep, you're going to school in the morning, and the next thing she woke at 2 a.m. saying car. You know,
she's ready.
2 in the morning.
You know, and while it was terrible, it's huge, you know. And to be able, like, she's potty training at the minute, which I genuinely didn't think we'd ever get to a stage, but I was potty training her younger sister, and all of a sudden, and I'm not kidding, she woke up one morning, I was changing her nappy, and she just turned around and said, no, potty train. And she went to the potty. You know what I mean? And it was as if, like, no, I'm done now. Now's my time, you know. And it's taken a long time and whatever, but she's doing it. And she, like, I was fierce worried. She was very attached to her Dodie, her soother. And then over the summer, like that, one day she just decided, no, I'm done. I'm done with that. And she doesn't need it to soothe her anymore. And it's just like those little changes that mean so much to us parents, you know, and it's so different. But I remember when we started first, Karen, you had said to me to make a list of any of the changes that we noticed. And like, every time she does a boost or a lift, now we've done one full lift and we've done 2 boosts. Every single day I'll always have, and it astounds me, I'll always have 4 or 5 points of new things she's done. Now, I mean, I'm talking, you know, it could be something subtle, you know, or something big. It might be a new word, or it might be that you notice something, but it's still new.
Absolutely.
And if you look through, like, I was just looking before tonight, looking through them all back, like, it's amazing to see all the different changes that it brought. Like, you know, she's able to go through all her animal sounds. She's able to count to 20, front and backwards. She's able to say her ABCs, you know. None of that was on my radar that I thought she'd ever be able to do, you know, or at least it would take us a while. But she's flying it. And it wholeheartedly is down to the listening program, the sound therapy, because she responds to it so well. And the mother's voice was a huge turning point for her when we did that part of it. But the whole lot of it, I suppose, is just she really responds to it.
Absolutely. And so many of the children do. I mean, I would say all of the children do. And it's interesting you say about mother's voice. I was hoping you'd mention that. Now, so a lot of parents may not have heard about that before. So mother's voice is where we would use the mum's voice, like your voice, a voice recording, as if you're talking to Lucy. And we embed that then in as part of her LIFT program. And I developed the programs with Morana. So when we used mother's voice, what did you see happen?
Well, it was funny because I had to listen to it myself to see what it sounded like. I suppose the idea isn't that it sounds like what you did when the child was in the room.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's distorted kind of to make it sound like that. But I remember trying to do the 30-minute slot of mother's voice, and it's so difficult trying to get 30 minutes of constant talking.
It's a long time.
But I think it was the second day she listened to it. During the recording, I had sang a song that I would have sang to her when she was a baby in the womb. And the minute she heard it, you could see her kind of, you know, it light up, because I knew kind of myself, I had put the headphones into the box to listen to parts of it myself. So I knew when it was coming up, and you could see her eyes kind of light up, as in like, oh, I recognize this, do you know? Or even there was a few different songs that I'd sang throughout it, like Monkeys on the Bed. And again, you could just see the reaction from her when she was listening to those parts. So, you know, it was interaction straight away with it. It was huge.
Yeah. I mean, I've just, and Morana, I'd love you to explain mother's voice even more, the thinking behind it. But I know when we use it with the kids, the change in the interaction and engagement, the wanting to engage, that desire, it's just, it's phenomenal to watch it, because as a speech therapist, you know, who really one of our primary things is the whole interaction and engagement piece. And we know how important it is when that desire isn't there, or there isn't a lot of desire there, or that motivation. It can be very difficult to get that going using more classical techniques. But when you use mother's voice as part of the LIFT, it just gets it moving in a whole different way. So, Morana, can you tell us for, you know,
and think about, you know, we know from research these days, there's quite a lot of research around, you know, the memory, the fetus has a memory that's a visceral memory. So when you think about, if you imagine what the fetus's experience in utero is that familiar rhythm, the pattern of speech of mom. That's why we filter it, right? Because what's familiar is the rhythm, is that transmission of sound that has a cadence that's very much recognizable. And it's really going back to those early developments of the desire to communicate, of the ability to reach out of that enclosed, safe environment and want to go out, right? That's why Karen and I were talking about using the mother's voice for premature babies, for instance, right? That have come out a little bit too early, didn't have enough of that experience of safety and emotional, physical safety, right? And we do very, very commonly. You will see sometimes children will go into a fetal position when the mother's voice is playing too, just instinctively. I love what it does for the just to strengthen that social emotional connection that's necessary for the child to establish that desire to communicate. And we're not going into, I mean, it's not like something is impaired. It's more, you know, we can talk about facilitating, you know, the readiness in a way. A lot of what we're talking about today has to do with readiness that comes from within, right? When you're talking about Lucy starting to want to do the toilet training, right? There is a sensation there that the child is responding to that she didn't have before, right? And that whole idea that the world around her is moving. So being more mature is going to the toilet, right? So now I can pair that sensation with the idea that I can thrive to grow up and be like other kids, right? But seeing myself outside of that little bubble, right? And so the mother's voice is really an attempt to go back there and give a little bit more of a push, a little bit more of security, a little bit more of that support for the child emotionally. And even in terms of self-regulation, we know that the soothing voice of the mother is what helps the child calm down, right? So it's lovely to see. And we use it with older children in some cases. We can talk about that, Karen, I mean, if there's time. But sometimes for older children as well, it can be very, very, very helpful, especially when there's difficulty with self-regulation.
Yeah. I mean, it's been
So
amazing
I
to
love
watch
that
it.
aspect of the work. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I have never seen a child react negatively. We've had mothers who have been through a traumatic experience when they were pregnant, and there's a concern, do we want to revisit that period, right? I have never seen the child respond negatively to the mother's voice. If there's some kind of reaction, it might be because it's a change, because it's talking, it's not the music. And if it's introduced in a context that this is just another way of receiving the sound, there's never an issue. I definitely see all the children being calmed by it, being more alert, being more engaged, having that desire to come out and to engage, which for some of our kids, it really takes a lot of effort. Being out there takes a lot of effort.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, as a speech therapist who's used many different techniques to encourage children to interact and engage, and I've never seen anything like what Mother's Voice can do. In terms of just firing up that desire to want to engage, that, as you say, readiness to that, wanting to reach out to the world, to reach out to their parents, whether the eye contact initially or more hugging, more kissing, more affection with the rest of the family.
This moment where the child grabs your head and looks into your
as if they're
eyes.
seeing you for the
yes, absolutely.
And
even looking at, you will know from the speech therapist position too, looking at the lips for the first time, making the connection between lips moving and making a sound and having that being
and
part of a communication, the non-verbal part, right?
Which and the non-verbal piece is so critical, isn't it, particularly in terms of that interaction and engagement. But I always feel it's that kind of that falling in love, when the child falls in love with the reds, often we see children initially who may be looking at their parents, but they're just feeling that
not connecting.
Their parents feel that they're and then parents start to say, God, I feel he's really connecting with me now. I feel he's really looking
I'm
at
present.
me.
I'm present
to him.
Right.
Present and more regulated and wanting to, No, it's I mean, it's been a privilege for me to have worked with so many amazing families, and to continue to do so, and with using these techniques, and I suppose I feel very lucky to have just been in the right place, the right time over the years to learn these techniques and to incorporate them. And it's been amazing. I'm just thinking, Casey, from your point of view, what would you, because I know we've got 10 minutes left now, what would you say to any parent who's maybe thinking about sound therapy but doesn't know or isn't sure? What would you say?
Do it.
I know.
Look,
give it a go.
Like Oksana, we try our very best to we don't stop fighting. I suppose we're the same, and most parents in our situation are the very same. They have to do everything they can for their child. All parents are the same. Without it, we 1,000% wouldn't be in the position that we are today. And it's funny that you talk about the changes in affection and things. Lucy was very much so, you know, in her eyes, before we started this, she had one parent, and that was me. And I was the only person that she would tolerate. I was the only person she would look at, and I was the only person she wanted. And then all of a sudden, after, you know, I think it was probably during the lift, she noticed her daddy, you know, and it was as if, wow, there's another person that is here, and he's also my parent. And it very much so, it's changed the dynamic, something like completely. And he's now another person that she has, you know, that kind of a way. I'm the only person. He also is a person. But it's huge. And the affection that she has for him now is the same as what she has for me. And that wasn't there before. And it's just wonderful. And I know it's, I suppose, like Oksana was talking, financially, there's a lot when you don't get the services publicly. It can be a financial burden.
Yes.
I suppose the only thing I can say is it's the best money we've spent. And you know, we also do speech therapy privately alongside this once kind of a month. But it most definitely is the only thing we have seen a huge change from. And having the VHI plan, we have a good VHI plan for Lucy. It makes a huge difference because you know, you're able to claim back on that too. So it's not, while it might be upfront a lot, you know, you can get money back on the therapy.
Absolutely.
So that's helpful to know, I suppose, for parents, because it's not something that I did when we first started. But it's just, if you're on the fence about it, or if you're considering it at all, I'd say even just give the therapeutic listening a go, and you know, start with and then go from there. But I'd be very surprised if you didn't notice even some change, because obviously children's, you know, how they respond to it is different.
Yes.
You know, I'd be very surprised if you see no change at all.
No.
It mightn't be as quick as maybe Lucy, or, you know, but definitely it, you know, and I know the other people in Lucy's lives, in her life, notice a huge difference. Every time she does a program, they know automatically that she's doing one, you know, because it's huge. It's huge. I can't but recommend it to anyone that feels like they should try it.
No, and thank you. And you've hit on a number of points there. First of all, there are lots of different plans out there that you can get support with. And we talk to every parent about those, so you can look into those. And you know, something we haven't mentioned is, I know, Oksana, I've met you many times, but I've never met you, Katie. All of our work has been, no, when I say I haven't met you, of course I've met you, but always online. And that's something sometimes, because we do so much of our work online now, working with families from all over Ireland and abroad. And so, you know, we don't have to meet the family physically to be able to put the best program in place to make a really big difference. And I think that's
we were willing to drive to Galway. You know, and we're from the Midlands, but we absolutely, like, we would have, like that, like most parents, you do anything. But the fact that we're able to have all our consultations on Zoom, and I mean, there's no impact. Like, Lucy has made significant progress with this. So the fact that it is online makes zero difference, you know?
Absolutely. And all of the programs that we do so much of our work online now, but when I think of a number of years ago, like we'll say Oksana, when we would have done early programs with Vlad, we did them all in clinic. And so family would say for a 30-day lift program where the child was doing 2 hours per day, the family were driving to the clinic from wherever. It could have been from Dublin, it could have been from anywhere in the country to Galway, and maybe staying for a number of weeks or whatever it was. The fact that we can do it all online and we're seeing the same, if not better results, I would have thought. And the reason I say that is because now there isn't the pressure on the family to be in the car, to be on the road for 2 hours, there and back, or however many hours it is. And you're getting the same result, if not better, because the child's in the comfort of their own home and able to do the program there. So I think that's fantastic as well, because I even see with my own little fella now, I brought him down to a cranio osteopath. And it was 2.5 hours down and 2.5 hours back. And I thought, this is nuts, you know, but this is what families are having to do. So I'm delighted that the programs we offer, we can do it in this way, and they're equally, if not more effective. So no, thank you so much, Katie. Oksana, is there anything else you would like to say?
Only that when Katie was telling Lucy's story, it just brought up. It was such a similar experience, which was, and I forgot that I had to record my voice. And I remember what Vlad said, that you said to me, he's just sitting there, not moving.
Yes,
that's all right. He wants is to listen to that. I remember it was so amazing. And then he falls asleep.
Yes.
And then he falls asleep. Yeah, and it's bittersweet memories, of course. And I know it's just gonna sound, and I don't want to over kind of sell it, but for us it was a game changer. And my approach with everything, we tried over the years a lot of things with Vlad. I was always thinking, if it's not gonna harm him, I will try. I was so desperate. It was the progress for us was slower than for Lucy a little bit, and so that's why I was desperate, as I said, at some times. Well, the results are there, and the evidence was as such that we discontinued even some therapies, because I thought this doesn't work. We don't see, but this thing, it works. And the fact, as you said, remember, as parents, and I was amazed, would come from Northern Ireland. I remember one lady, they drove a couple of times and then they just rented a house. It was lovely to meet parents I have. It was a group of very dedicated ladies. That's one downside of that online, but you can't overestimate, because a lot of parents are stretched, in time, in resources, and it's great that it's working online now. And
that's great. Thank you,
good
Oksana.
luck to everyone. I just wish that we are a little bit ahead of probably other parents. So just wholeheartedly, whatever you choose, I hope that you get results that we've seen.
Yes,
all the best to everyone, and thank you to amazing Karen and Morana here.
And thank you, Oksana.
Thank you.
Is there anything, Morana, you'd like to finish off with? Because I know we're really we're about a minute to go.
I just want to say thank you for putting up these webinars. I'm really happy to participate, and I think it's wonderful for new parents to get a little bit of a feedback that's dynamic, and it gives a perspective.
Yes.
Thank you, Karen, and good luck to everybody as well.
I know, because I always think, because oftentimes I think people might think this is a little bit alternative or a little bit outside the norm, or, they might talk to their own speech and language therapist, and she might, say no.
And it can be hard to compare things too. But I think that, you need to hear from somebody who has been through the experience with their child from a perspective of a parent who knows, we can give a professional side of things. But it's this living experience of children that have done well that really makes a difference, I think, for the parents.
Absolutely. So thank you. So thank you all so much. Thank you, Morana. Thank you, Oksana. Thank you, Katie. And to all your beautiful children, thank you so much. And to all the lovely parents here tonight. If there's anyone who has any questions for us, please feel free to, ring us or email us. Probably the email is nearly the handiest, and we will get back to you quickly. And our email is, our website addresses are www.listeningtherapy.ie or www.openingyourmind.com. And our emails are inquiries@listeningtherapy.ie. So we're more than happy to answer any of your questions, and any parents who are worried about anything or want to just, see what we think. We're more than happy to talk it through with you. So we hope you've enjoyed tonight. We look forward to organising the next one, hopefully over the coming month. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the evening. Yes, thank you so much.